Are we ever going to see the end of the epic golf rivalry? Since the inception of LIV Golf, the golf community has been split into two factions, with everyone choosing sides. A lot of fans have supported the traditional tour, while others simply wanted to see their favorite players compete again. And then came the shocking proposition, a merger. Did this alliance come through? Will the LIV defectors be allowed back into the PGA Tour? Stay tuned and keep watching to find out. On June 6, 2023, Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, announced that there were moves for a framework agreement between the PGA Tour and the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, known as the Public Investment Fund. After many negotiations, this deadline was extended to December 31, 2023, so all the parties involved could reach a definitive conclusion. Why has there been so much delay? Monahan said the plan was to bring the PIF and DP World Tour as minor co-investors in the PGA Tour enterprises. The partnership would ultimately be for the greater good of the players, fans, and sponsors. The fact that two rival golf leagues would even think of coming together raised many questions among golf enthusiasts. If we remember when the saga started, there were talks of Saudi Arabia engaging in sports washing. The PIF money was considered evil because of the kingdom's records. From a moral standpoint, it all made sense to most people. Those who left for LIV were accused of being greedy and selfish. Then came the issue of the official World Golf Rankings, OWGR. While more players were switching to the Breakaway Series, the players were not being awarded points. This had severe consequences because it meant that some players would not qualify for the majors after a while. Many of the LIV golfers were unhappy about this and aired their treasure. The PGA Tour was taken to court and both parties started litigation. Fast forward to 2024, it now seemed like it no longer mattered. The lawsuits by both parties were dropped. With this new structure, the PGA Tour would have a significant share of the board of directors. What was the PIF bringing to the table? The financial sponsors of the LIV Tour were ready to invest $1 billion into the new body that would be formed. Before this time, the PGA and LIV Tours were involved in severe litigation as LIV Golf enticed some of the top players from the traditional tour. The world number 3 player, Jon Rahm, signed the most recent contract, reportedly worth $300 million. The partnership between the PGA Tour, LIV Golf, and DP World Tour can significantly impact golf's future by expanding its global reach, enhancing competition, and creating new opportunities for players, fans, and sponsors. While the partnership holds significant potential, its impact will depend on various factors, including the execution of plans, acceptance and participation of players, fan response, and the ability to navigate challenges and adapt to the evolving golf landscape. Monitoring developments and assessing the outcomes over time will provide a clearer picture of the long-term impact on golf's future. Sadly, the golf civil war is still far from its end, as the unification of the tour is now off the table. The parties have been unable to reach a suitable conclusion. Meanwhile, some of the tour's player leaders have always been against the alliance. "I don't think that it's needed," said Jordan Spieth. "I think the positive of the deal with PIF would be a unification of PGA Tour and LIV players, but I think it's just something that's almost not even worth talking about right this second. The idea is that we have a strategic partner that allows the PGA Tour to go forward the way it's operating right now without anything else." Adam Scott was more blunt in his assessment. "We don't need it purely from a financial standpoint." Financially, their decision makes sense. The tour gains the stability it lacked just weeks ago by injecting $1.5 billion into its resources, with an additional $1.5 billion waiting in the wings. Meanwhile, the $930 million allocated for player equity shares won't necessarily deter other players from defecting. On the other hand, solely viewing this through a business lens is problematic. The tour isn't just competing against another company, it's up against a foreign kingdom. A kingdom backing its LIV project not solely for economic reasons, but for a broader strategic aims, with an unlimited budget to support it until those objectives are met. While the millions given to players like Jon Rahm are significant, the Public Investment Fund, PIF, can effortlessly offer $75 million contracts to players who haven't won in years. Even though $3 billion is a substantial sum for the tour, it cannot be compared to the blank check mentality of the PIF. The hope of the LIV players re-entering the PGA Tour remains low on their negotiation priority list. This is partly due to the contentious nature of the issue. PIF advocates for integrating LIV into the PGA Tour schedule and allowing LIV players to compete in tour events. On the other hand, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, who described his secret deal with PIF as an opportunity, quote, to take the competitor off the board, quote, desires to have several LIV players under the tour umbrella, even if it means shutting down LIV. Most top PGA Tour players oppose the return of LIV players without some form of penalty. The player faction has publicly expressed this sentiment in the past weeks, particularly following Rory McIlroy's statements advocating for a unified game. Prominent players such as Spieth, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, and Scottie Scheffler have opposed the return of LIV members. Reliable sources have also reported that Woods is against LIV players returning to the PGA Tour. Although it might be easy for anyone to align themselves with the assertions of the PGA Tour players, these LIV Golf defectors left the PGA Tour for tens of millions in guaranteed money, even after they were warned of the consequences. The LIV players went as far as suing the PGA Tour. There are also die-hard fans who have supported the stance of the PGA all along. How do you now make these factions feel better after they accused the PIF of being against human rights? We must also admit that the decision rests not solely with PIF or Monahan. While money can wield significant influence, it cannot purchase a conscience. Monahan's actions may have contributed to the challenging situation the PGA Tour finds itself in. Ideally, fans would serve as a guiding force, but they do not hold the reins of power. The choice lies with the players who remain loyal to the PGA Tour. They are the ones whose careers were and continue to be on the line, who stood by their convictions and now find themselves in the difficult position of judging those who went against them. The reluctance of tour players to welcome back LIV players may seem rooted in principle, but in reality, it often boils down to pride. Welcoming back the defectors demands swallowing one's pride, accepting that others may perceive it as defeat, and facing the possibility that one's sacrifices were in vain. It also entails the risk of returning to one's original stance. However, perpetuating this war by refusing to welcome back LIV players will not have any future benefits for the PGA Tour. And that wraps up today's video. Are you in support of LIV Golf coming back? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and see you in the following video.